One of the defining moments of my personal and professional life came about as a result of winning the Artistic Ambassador auditions with my wife in 1994. The United States Information Agency set up a nice tour for us of 4 European and 2 African countries. I was a young professor, I had finished my doctorate, and Rebecca was completing her own doctorate in voice. And we were very excited about traveling to Europe to perform in the places where the music was created, which we were becoming expert at. Little did we know that the high point of the tour was by far going to be in Ghana. It was unforgettable. And when we got to Ghana, we had a week there. There were 2 important stories. The first one that happened in Winneba at a teacher's college is we were greeted in the morning first by a lone drummer, someone who would say, "Brum boom, Akwaba, you are welcome." In Ghana, everyone greets you that way. They say, "You are welcome." And Americans have to adjust quickly because it has nothing to do with "thank you, you're welcome." It means very profoundly, "You are welcome." And they walk the talk by being the most gracious, the most joyful people I have ever met. And this was an unforgettable week in our lives that changed the way that we look at music, the way we interact with music and with students and with colleagues. That first day, I should say that was really the second day, but the day at Winneba, where they feted us as though we were the president and spouse of the United States. It started out with a great drumming of Akwaba, which turned into a chant, which turned into choral singing, which led to dancing, first for us, and then by throwing scarves to us, they would toss scarves to us, then we would dance with them. And it was exhilarating. It was absolutely amazing. After a lunch break, we, dressed in our formal clothes, I had my tuxedo, we had very few options for clothing, for dress clothing, even though it was over 90 degrees and about 100% humidity. And the concert was, again, just a quick paradigm shift, because during our performances, there were plenty of whoops, and it was very interactive. There's not the we perform and you wait till we end and you applaud. Nothing like that at all. And that was the first experience. But the big shift was going to take place the next day. Little did I know. We went to the University of Cape Coast, and this is very close to the Elmina Slave Castle, which was another transformative event to visit. But this one was interactive with people of today. I was supposed to teach a master class, and I could hear a couple of out-of-tune uprights as I approached, and we were only about 15 minutes late, which we had learned was essentially on time or even early. But when I got there, there were probably 30 students waiting around one upright piano, and they were patiently waiting to begin. So I was ready to begin the class, and a short man who identified himself as a professor said, "I need to talk to you." And he took me aside, and he was joined by another taller man. And he looked very downcast, and he said, "Oh, I think there is a problem with tonight's concert." Well, the concert was starting at 7 p.m., and now it's about 9:30. And so I said, "No problem. We can check it out after the master class." And he said, "Oh, no, I think we need to go now." Well, I had learned from the government officials and others, and just cultural differences that we had encountered already along our tour, that it was very important for Ghanaians to save face. And I did not want to cause this man distress. And I knew that they were in charge. So I said, "Let's go." And so the 2 men and a driver and Rebecca and I got into the vehicle, and we rode past these lush landscapes. It's so rich and tropical. It was like being on a tropical island. And so we arrived at the concert venue, and backstage there is a piano there with a name that I've never encountered before or since. It was a large grand, but I could see even approaching it that some of the keys were stuck down. And when I touched it, you quickly would find out that some of the keys were stuck up as well. So this piano was completely waterlogged, and it's true that it was completely unplayable. And saving face or not, I couldn't see any way how anyone could play this. So I said, "You're right, this isn't playable." And the first man looked down and he said, "Oh," and the other one said, "Oh." And then the second one said, "I think there's an electric piano at the town hall." I think they'd been setting me up. It was great. And what they did was we had another drive. They took us another 15-minute drive to the town hall, and we found a Roland electric piano, which happened to be the same model that was in the piano lab of my university. I tried the piano out, it worked, and actually the power went off just before I was to try it out, and then it came on after about 10 minutes. We loaded it into the truck, we came back. The total trip took about an hour and a half, and all the students were still waiting in the same spots. The master class, I remember being especially joyful and interactive. A young composer played his arrangement of a Ghanaian folk song and gave me a copy of the score, which I later played at the concert that evening. And so we prepared over the course of the day to do the concert at night. We arrived at around 6:10 p.m. and shortly after that, there were high winds and the power went out. Remember, it's very hot, and we're in formal clothes. I'm in a tuxedo. Rebecca had a dress that was it was polyester, so you could ball it up and throw it in the suitcase, but it was still warm. So we couldn't see each other from a distance of 2 feet backstage. It was so dark. Ghana is right near the equator, and so it seems like darkness just comes on like a really quick dark shade, and boom, it's light, boom, it's dark. And in this case it was dark, of course, and backstage we couldn't see each other, and so we're trying to hike up as many clothes or take whatever we can off, and finally we get to about 10 minutes to 7 and the lights come on. So we test the piano. We put the old waterlogged piano with its lid up just behind the electric piano so we can get the extra acoustic benefit, and put Rebecca in front of it so she can project her voice more into this auditorium, which was not the ideal acoustic, even though it was made for maybe 800 people. And people were starting to show up now. Smaller than we expected, but still a couple hundred people. And the next thing happened is right at 7 o'clock when the concert was supposed to start, the lights go off again. Well, at 7:25, 25 minutes late, the concert begins and the lights stay on, so that's good. And once again, just like the day before, we started performing, and repeatedly, the audience would get so excited. They would scream and whoop in the middle of pieces. Well, the paradigm shift for me happened when I was playing William Still's Dark Horseman. It's not a very long piece, but it gets very frenetic, and it leads to a rather exciting climax. I would say it was about 2/3 of the way through this piece that I started to hear a sound. It was like a crescendo from the audience. And finally I heard this. Woo! 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 And I felt this electricity go up and down and up and down and up and down and up and down my spine. It was totally electrifying. And when I hit the final chord of the piece, it was a sensational experience of like a rock concert. Everybody was on their feet and they were screaming. And it was rather a liberating experience. I realized that my priorities would never be the same, that how we had been schooled, as I said, how we perform, you listen, and then you clap, that was forever going to be different. And after we went to Zimbabwe, the next country, we flew to London, to Dublin, and we took a train to Belfast. This is how you can tell a paradigm shift has taken place, because there was a concert that we gave at Queen's College in Belfast. And it turned out it was actually a wonderful audience, but you wouldn't know from the response, especially after having our horizons expanded so greatly in Ghana. In Belfast, at intermission, I turned to Rebecca, I said, wow, are we that dead? Like, what's going on? To the people in Northern Ireland's credit, afterwards, I would say this was a packed room of about 100 people. The capacity was probably 90 and it was stuffed. I would say that 75 to 80 people stayed afterwards to greet us. They waited for the longest time and they said, that was so enjoyable. I so enjoyed that. Thank you so much. And we realized that customs are so different. In the West, we're much more likely to encounter this kind of reaction to classical music in particular. But as I said, it is our great good fortune that we were liberated of having to conform to ideas of a way to behave at concerts that really doesn't benefit anyone. And that I certainly found myself less perfectionistic from that day forward. I have perhaps more zeal about music and musical intensity, but from that day forward, life has certainly been richer and fuller, and I couldn't be more grateful.